Yes, I'm Jenna Stieber. I'm marketing for Demonschool and Necrosoft Games.
All right, Jess, so give us the pitch of the game here today. Where are you showing off?
Yeah, so this is Demonschool, a spooky, stylish tactical RPG. The pitch of the game is that it's a simplified, streamlined RPG. It just gets to the action. And it is very spooky, but it's not too scary, not like World of Horror.
Okay, that's the other game we're going to check out in a minute, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying this is a tactical game, but it's sort of simplified a little bit, right?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So it's more about positioning your characters in the right place in order to get things like combos off, in order to land the right kind of hits that you need, in order to reposition enemies and stun them as you need to. So there's not a lot of focus on like choosing the right defense or the right attack for that moment. You just send your enemies in, or you send your characters into the enemies and they will attack automatically.
Okay, so the school setting makes me think of these various school games that have come out in the past few years that focus a lot on relationships and things like that. Is there anything like that in this game as well?
Absolutely, there will be relationships.
Okay.
So you can befriend people and there will be some romance options.
Okay.
Yep, and that'll unlock different things like different storylines and dialogues and make them a little bit more effective in battle.
Okay, cool. Any other major things you wanted to reference about this game that people should know about? Aesthetics or anything like that?
Oh, aesthetics.
Yeah, I see you have the CRT TV. It's a good throwback. Not the first CRT TV we've seen at the show, actually.
Wait, who else has a CRT?
Well, they may not have a CRT, but the look, there's a Vice game over by Skybound that has like a similar look.
Retro is in.
Yeah, exactly. So, can you talk about that at all?
Absolutely, yeah. So when you first get into the game, you'll be like, oh wow, big Persona vibes. Although we're a little bit more inspired by Shin Megami Tensei.
Okay.
But
you earned so many fans from this audience just now.
By knowing the difference.
Yes.
Yeah. And not only do we know the difference, but the difference is important to us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's a big one, but also a lot of horror manga, so obviously Junji Ito, but also a lot of the older school horror like The Drifting Classroom and things like that. And I think the biggest one, as you can probably see from our banner, big inspiration from Giallo Italian horror.
Okay.
So like your Fulcis, your Dario Argentos, your Zombie, and whatnot. That's very audible also in our music as well.
Okay, awesome. So do you have platforms and release date?
All of them. All of the platforms except mobile, but we'll be everywhere.
Okay, and
yeah.
When's it coming out? Do you have a date?
2023.
Okay, later this year. Do you have a season, quarter?
End of year.
Okay, great. Heard it here first.
My name is Rob Cox and I am production manager at Ysbryd Games.
Okay, cool. So can you tell us about the game here today? That we got World of Horror. What type of game is this and what should people know about it?
World of Horror is essentially a one-bit love letter to Junji Ito and H.P. Lovecraft. You are basically going through a kind of point-and-click tribute to decades long past. There is turn-based combat, there is randomized enemies and encounters, and there is a very particular kind of horror which fans of Lovecraft and Ito will be familiar with.
I imagine like an existential sort of situation.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not so much jump scares or being chased by a monster around a dungeon. It's more like just this creeping sense of the world as you thought you knew it not being quite right anymore and kind of decaying and getting a little bit kind of more fractured and fragmented.
This is a fictional game?
It's a fictional game, and
this sounds familiar. The world getting less familiar and fractured and horrific.
Yeah, I mean, luckily there's like a chance to kind of quickly reset and replay with a totally new randomized set of enemies and events, which is very much not the case IRL. But yeah, World of Horror has this kind of high replayability, and every person is going to have a very different experience.
Okay, very cool. So I wanted to ask about your experience getting this gig here. I was told you got this job in an interesting way. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, sure. So my background started off in basically the world of international public policy. And I, for the last 5 years, was working in the UK Parliament. I was helping run select committees, which are similar to your congressional committees. And ultimately, it was kind of like publishing a game, it turns out. But instead of a game, we had, very dense reports, but with everything else, like the press and the kind of step-by-step work program leading up to it, it was actually like a very easy transition, really. And I've always dabbled in games in some form, whether it's pixel art, like you see on the standees here. Yeah, I've done voice acting for Skyrim community mods.
Yeah, so the key thing is that you were a fan of the studio, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So like I played World of Horror sort of well before I even knew about the opening, and it's like kind of a dream job, really, to be working on something which appeals to my tastes like so very precisely. I've always loved that kind of very stylized type of horror. Always been like a huge Bloodborne fan.
So what you're telling me is, if I'm a fan of a game studio, I can just keep emailing them to give me a job, and it'll happen eventually?
I mean, you got to try.
Okay. Okay, you're saying definitely try.
Definitely keep trying. I mean, I'm like kind of a bit of a late bloomer to the games industry. Like I've worked all kinds of non-game related jobs for years and years, and it's absolutely a myth that you need to like study a degree in game design and then intern at Square Enix by the time you turn 19.
Yeah, as long as you work in international politics, you're fine.
I mean, it's all about the transferable skills and just kind of keeping at it, and you will, much like pitching a game to a publisher, you will feel discouraged, but it's more accessible than people think.
Okay, awesome. Well, this game looks cool. PAX East, come for the games, stay for the career advice.
Noisy Pixel.